Now the founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Zuhdi Jasser. Great to have you with us, Zuhdi.
Thank you.
This attack is the worst over the course of the past 6 months, in which 300 people have been killed in Turkey. Why are these attacks accelerating on the part of the Islamic State against Turkey, which is not predominantly, 98% of which is Muslim? And it has a government that has been, at the very least, if not hospitable, accommodating to the Islamic State and other radical Islamists.
I think that's the greatest question, Lou, is it would seem that the Islamists of the AKP in Turkey have been feeding the precursors of ISIS and the Islamists against the Assad regime. So why would they do this? And I'll tell you, we were, from our Islamic Forum, talking about the fact that the Assad regime, and my family's told me this from Aleppo and from Damascus, was handing out passports to the millions because they wanted to depopulate Syria of Sunnis. And the rebels in Syria will tell you, the moderate rebels, the few that remain, will tell you that they're no longer fighting Arabs. They're fighting Iranian militants, Afghani Shia militants, and it's secularized or sectarian battle has created between Sunni and Shia. So ISIS wants the refugees to not have a home in Turkey or in Europe. They want them to come back because they need that fighting force. And the more they can make it inhospitable for them, and that's why the greatest threat to that internecine battle within the land of Islam, which is Turkey, Egypt, the Middle East, is Istanbul is one of those centers, and they want those refugees to start coming back to fight the war against Assad. And until we treat, Lou, the cancer at its root, which is not only ISIS in Syria and Iraq, but the Assad regime, they're going to continue to have these attacks against the softer targets.
The Assad regime, in this case, is enemy of Turkey. Its ally is Russia, which is increasingly the enemy of Turkey. How does Erdogan maneuver through this and at the same time being attacked by the Islamic State for the motivation that you suggested, but also simply to drive, quote unquote, the infidels from the region?
Well, you know, that's a great question. And I'll tell you that the adults in the room here and the world need to be the West, need to be America. Because the old Islamists, be it the Muslim Brotherhood of Egypt, the Wahhabis in Saudi Arabia, the Khomeinists, or Assad regime that claims to be so-called against terror, are actually the cauldrons. What radicalized the Syrian population is the Assad regime. They've killed, as ISIS has exerted its genocide against minorities, Assad has been exerting a genocide of almost 500,000 against the Sunnis. So that method of dealing with terrorism, they allow radical Islam to grow in their cauldrons to legitimize military dictatorship. And the Islamists, like the AKP in Turkey, don't want to see that their alternative is also a form of fascism, a theocratic fascism that the Turks are dealing with internally. So the only solution to that, which we've left as a vacuum since the Arab awakening, is to find a third pathway in the Middle East. And until we have leadership out of the White House, State Department, and DOD that's willing to start to work on that third pathway, be it in Egypt, Turkey. I mean, Tunisia is a great example. Tunisia is finding that third pathway. And until Syria starts to find a third pathway of liberty, we're going to keep seeing these attacks in the Middle East and globally.
Zuhdi Jasser, we thank you very much for being with us. It is, you describe a mission that, if not impossible, sounds like one of the most difficult ever for the West. And raises the question whether it is a mission that we should be on, that is the United States and Europe. Very quickly, can you give us your thought on that as we wrap up?
Well, the mission, without America's presence, will be filled by the Russias of the world, the Irans, the Saudi Arabias. So we can sit back. Isolationism will actually allow them to grow, and they'll come attack us because the greatest threat to their theocracy or secular fascism is freedom, whether it's with our troops or with our ideas.
And we've seen that growth since 2011. Zuhdi Jasser, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.